those things. Please make sure that you write down the side. If you want to write anything, you can do. Please don't write to anyone in this workshop. Don't write about anyone. If you see somebody go, fuck me, I wouldn't mind fingering that, or whatever it is that you're thinking, keep those thoughts to yourself. Even if you think someone has a beautiful smile, they don't want to know. Just keep your mouth shut in the nicest ways. That's our tradition. It's what we do here. We're nice to each other. So, because it's not therapy, it's a therapeutic space, however, when we talk about things. And half of you take the piss out of me and aren't very nice to me anyway. I'm ill today. Can you be a bit nicer, please? Probably not. So Jerry often has his microphone off. So Jerry talks because it's the only way we can control him. And Poppy talks, who's known as the scene counsellor as well. If anyone's checking me out as a therapist, please don't. I don't have any space. I have 0 space. Go to Poppy. Please go to Poppy. So Cinder says, hi to everyone. Jerry says, can I at least say that I'm intrigued by the picture behind Sweet Cherry? I have seen that picture before. Sweet Cherry says, love you loads, but nope. And Holly says, this is a learning space for learning and reflection. It is. And a little bit of humour, a little bit of crudity, because it's me. And a little bit of us being able to do those things. I'm living off Lemsip. I think I've gone through 30 boxes. How I haven't lost 3 stone in having the shits, I have no idea. Keith says, good evening to all of you. Hope you feel better soon. Debs, this flu bug is horrid. It is. I ended up in hospital for a good few hours yesterday. They were testing me for all sorts, but hey, shows I'm well. At the end of the day, people panic around me because of what happened to me a few years ago. So I can't say that because you lot are a bunch of twats. So if you're new to this workshop, they play games with me like bingo, because I mentioned things a few times. And because I mentioned them a few times, they're not very nice to me. Right. Kara says hugs. Thanks. See, that's nice. That's nicer, isn't it, than fucking lying or anything else? Come on, people. Queerly Quiet says, good evening, everyone. Hope you feel better soon, Debs. Thank you very much. And Sweet Cherry says, because that was almost bingo. Yes, it was not, though, was it? But bingo is fun. Look, if you don't know me, and I understand that you're new here as well, of course, what happens in groups, that little cliques evolve, and some of us know each other in real life, and that's quite normal to happen. However, the more of you that come along, and when you come along every week, 2 weeks at the moment, whatever that means, but the more you come along like that, it's great because we get to know each other and we play these games together, which is quite good fun. Luke, hi Luke, hi, hope you're all feeling better. Thanks Luke, I'm trying really hard, I promise. Okay, so we've got 3 subjects tonight. The 3 subjects we've got are topping from the bottom. Then we're talking about fantasy, and fantasy as a person. I'm going to talk about fantasy and mental health generally, fantasy as a human being, and then we'll also talk a little bit about sexual fantasy and the differences between that and what happens. And then we're going to talk about attachment patterns and toxic relationships, why those carry on and what happens. As always, if you've got something to say, write it down the side. I'll read it out. I don't have my glasses on, so sometimes I'm squinting like this. It's a really attractive look. Trust me, it's called the secretary. It doesn't work at all, does it? But I really try. So I try. Scene counsellor. I was so worried. I pulled over to reply to your Telegram message. That counts. It does count. I love you too. It really does count. Right. Okay. So let's have a look at these 3 subjects. Topping from the bottom. I don't know how many people here are new to kink. We've got over 50 people in already. There might be some newbies here. There might be some really, really established people, and there might be some very experienced people, but often on the scene, what we've got are people who see themselves as tops, or people who see themselves as bottoms, and people who see themselves as both. Some people live this as a lifestyle, whereby I'm always this way, and this is what I do, and this is the only way I have a relationship. Some people have it just as an extra thing. It's their sex life, or it's fun, or it varieties in a lot of ways. So what I was asked about generally is topping from the bottom. Why? So let's have a little look about it. Let's have a think about it. What do you count topping from the bottom as? I'll be curious to see what you all think and what it means. I think it depends how you define yourself for a start. And I think that's something you've got to think about, because if you define yourself as a lifestyle person and maybe I'm a master and I'm a slave, well, then that's very different. Bratting, topping from the bottom shouldn't really come into that relationship ever, I would say, if you're going for the lifestyle extreme. If you've got more than your dominance submissive, notice how I'm making these lower and closer together. I'm not saying any is better than any other or anything else as well. I'm saying they're different. Then you've got your dominant and your submissive. So maybe there's different negotiations here, different negotiations at different times as well. And then maybe you've got people playing with each other, play partners, tops, service tops. You've got all these different names and all these different people having different relationships at different times. Overall, if somebody is going to top from the bottom, they're going to do things along the lines of refusing orders, refusing to obey. I would say those things count. Questioning what they're told to do, questioning when they're told to do it in some way, shape or form. So Kitty, USA Submissive, just said, what exactly is a service top? No, it's not a pro-dom. So it's somebody who just maybe services that need in you in that time for a limited period of time. It could be a club, it could be privately. It isn't about paying, although you can get professional dominance as well if you want to, and professional submissives if you'd rather pay. Lots of negotiation. So a service top is for a moment, really, somebody who's going to do something for you at some time that you want to receive or have. If you're topping from the bottom, you might renegotiate a scene in some way, shape or form at the wrong time, maybe in the middle. We've got to watch that. Banter, this is interesting, isn't it? Do we banter too much sometimes if we're on the bottom? Yeah, for sure. But then is that part of your way if you're a brat? And brats can really run close to topping from the bottom, and sometimes it's just supposed to be fun and a laugh. So this is all about communicating what these words mean to you. That's what this is about. What exactly do you mean by banter? What exactly do you mean by rules? What exactly do you mean by all of these things? And then, of course, we can, if we're not bantering, we can barter. We can have a bit of a conversation and say, well, no, I'm not going to do that. If you let me do that, I'll do that. And then if you do that, well, I'll do that. Well, if you're going to do that, I'm going to do that then. How submissive are you? What does it mean? So again, it's all about having those conversations. You can intentionally tell the top what to do. I have been well known. Me? As if, fuck me, that's not how you hit me, you twat. Those words have come out of my lips more than once in a scene or in a situation. Anyone else ever done that? Jesus, have you ever done this before? Do you want a lesson quickly or something along those lines? It doesn't always go down well. I've noticed that. It doesn't lead to a good sex life. Funny that. It doesn't lead to a good playtime either. But, you know, I remember being hit sometimes by going, oh, you're really hurting me in the wrong ways. What are you doing? That's jarring my back. Oh, check out people's experience. Check out how they play. Oh, dear, sorry. Check out what they do. And another way of topping from the bottom is by going out on purpose to get something wrong. Now that could also be just bratting. So like, I want you to count and I want you to say thank you after each count. 1, thank you. 3, thank you. Don't be a smart ass. Oh, sorry, did I get it wrong? Now, some people might like that sort of thing and a lot of people don't. So you have to, what does that mean to each of you? And I'm sure some of you recognize yourself in some of the things that I'm saying, for sure. So look, if you beg for something and say, please, please, please do this to me, please, please, I wouldn't say that's topping from the bottom. It's annoying asking. That's what begging is. It's annoying, frustrating asking, and it might piss you off a little bit. That's a bit different. And you might be begging someone to stop. However, if you haven't invoked a safe word and you haven't turned around and said, oh, please agree a safe word before you start, you know, it's really sensible to do. Some people want to go by just watching someone's body, you know, somatic responses, all sorts of different things. Okay, great, but you can also get that really wrong. And also when you meet someone new, you can do the scoring system, which can really work. I'm at a 7, I'm at a 3, I'm at a 2, this is where I am. And that's really good sometimes to do. So you tell someone where you are. And of course, if you intentionally lie in that, you're starting to top from the bottom. I don't ever want to tell this person I'm at an 8. So I'm at a 4. And actually someone really then hits you because you said you were at 4 and all of a sudden you're on a 12. Maybe not sensible, maybe not the best thing to do. You can beg to stop, as I said, you can ask for different things. However, if you really want a scene to stop, what you're going to do is use your safe word. I think abusing a safe word is absolutely not okay. I'm sorry, I think it's really abusive for the relationship. It's not a good thing to do. If you agree a safe word, it's to be used when it's really fucking necessary. You can say to someone, Amber, you can say, I've got an amber safe word in some way, and you might use the traffic light system, green, amber, red. If you just stop it, and the Moria says, if you haven't agreed anything else, stop is a safe word. I would agree with that as well. That's why I'm saying, sort out your safe words, have conversations. Make sure you do have those conversations. If you really need the scene to end, I would question what's gone on in the scene between the two of you. I think that can be quite dangerous. So I also think giving feedback after a scene isn't topping from the bottom. I think having those conversations is a really good idea. Let me score you out of 3. Let me tell you how you were. You were shit. Or don't do that, clearly. But have a little bit of feedback. Have a chance to have a conversation with somebody and say, this worked, this didn't work, without having a go at someone. If you have to stop something or someone changes something in the middle of the scene, if that was a top, you'd be going mad. I told you I didn't want to do anal. You shoved your fingers in my ass. We would have a go and we would start screaming, regardless of our gender. That's why I use the word ass. So the gender doesn't even come into it. We hadn't agreed that. But if as a submissive, we start asking for stuff during a scene which hasn't been agreed, we all get carried away. And we've got to be really careful about that. That's when it gets dangerous for other people. It's not fair. It becomes really problematic in the relationship. And I don't think that's a good thing for us to do. Amber needs defining checking in with rather than red as a stop. I agree with you. So Amber is just a quick timeout, maybe a breather. It could be that you just stroke someone for a minute and you say, hey, what's going on for you? Let's stop this. What are we doing here? It could be a lot of things. That's what I mean. And that's why I love it when you all write down the side, because it's all about our personal experience. It's all about asking for what you want. It's all about learning, isn't it? Together. Topping from the bottom is, as I say, becomes really problematic because you've kind of got an agreement of how the scene's going to go, or you might do. In a long-term relationship, you won't have that as much because you know how each other works, you can read each other, and you know what's going on. However, you should also be checking in beforehand. Did you have a good day? How are you? What's happening? I've got a massive writing on consent, which I know Namori is now all of a sudden looking for. And and it's really important to make sure that you do negotiate these things. Sorry, Namori, I just know that's what he's doing. So we have to, if he's around, we have to really make sure that we're careful about those things. Make sure you understand what's about to happen and why, so you don't have to change it as you go. So you're not misread as a top that pushes or a bottom that pushes in all the wrong ways. And it's not good. It's manipulative. If we start topping from the bottom, why the fuck are you in this? Why are you doing it? Genuinely, I'm going to ask you that question. Because if you are doing that, it's not healthy for any form of romantic, sexual, BDSM and or vanilla relationship. When you start manipulating, it doesn't help. You're not enabling the other person to grow, to change, to listen. You're not enabling yourself to do that. You're just putting someone down, or you're saying something horrible, or you're manipulating a situation. Now, that might be your kink. It might be in some way that you like having that power. It might be that you say things in a certain way. It might be that you get off on playing that game. It isn't healthy and it won't be good. We talk about how much communication BDSM relationships have. We talk about how amazing they are. We talk about how great they are. But if you start doing this, you are just going to undermine the relationship completely. Why would you be topping from the bottom? What would be happening? What are the reasons? Well, it can be a variety of reasons. Some of us who aren't very good at boundaries, and we're going to come on to boundaries a bit later when we start talking about attachment patterns slightly, we might test and push our boundaries. That's really normal to do. There are many pieces of research into children and toddlers going away from a parent, and they come back, they test their boundary. Where is safe? Where isn't? How does this work? It's really important to test your boundaries with a dominant and with a submissive. It goes both ways, but not in a way that will harm each of you. You do it through discussion. Would you be open for this? What do you think about this? What could we do together? You do it through discussion. But we can also do it because we want to push a boundary. I want you to go a bit further. I want you to, pull on the reins and really bring me in. I want you to make a difference to me. Again, that isn't the way to do it, but that might be why someone's doing it, because you're not being strict or strong enough. They don't think you're doing those things. Then we don't have a conversation about that. So we push until we get a slap, and then it's sorted. We go, yay, or we go, what a cunt, he abused me, she abused me, they abused me. And you're like, well, I wonder why that happened. We're both not being particularly healthy. So Domina Ivory says, and Gallant, sorry, I have a friend who negotiated some topping from the bottom in a switching scene where the idea was one of the pair starts off as Dom and the sub then slowly manipulates the Dom over time until they've reversed the roles. But it was all negotiated in advance. So I would say it wasn't really topping from the bottom, it was stimulating it for fun. I'd agree with that. Again, that's it, isn't it? It's all about the bloody conversation before, yeah. And I would agree with Sweet Cherry. That's that That's that switch moment, especially if you've got two switches, when you go boom and you switch in the middle of a session. And if you are seeing a switch, it's really important to work out, does this switch want to be done with me, both with me, or whatever? Like, come on, bring it. We'll fucking have it. Come on, let's see who's going to win. That might be great for you. It wouldn't work for me. I am a submissive. Can I switch? Yes. Do I want to? No, not anymore. Haven't done for years. Don't want to. It doesn't work for me. So you've got to work. You've got to make it work. But there's also something, bring it. Come on, let's have it. There is that sort of thing going on, isn't there? It's quite good fun. And it can be good fun. Does that mean I'm never not dominant? No. I'm going to push my partner back. I'm going to do things, especially if I want to give them a little bit of a good time and to work that way. But that's not me taking commands. That's me playing with the dynamics so that the other person's having fun as well. So it makes a difference. And Domina says, it was similar, not quite like that, Sweet Cherry, hard to explain. Yeah, and again, all of these things are relevant. And what I liked about what you said, Domina, is it was slightly more subtle because it was that gentle switch of manipulation as to when something shifts in the middle. And that's the difference, isn't it? Rather than have it fight. Both of those exist. Both of those work really well for people. Robert, K499, says, I feel I had a situation like that. It led to unfortunate situations as the sub seemed to be taking the lead too much. Well, then you've got to ask, is this person a sub then, haven't you? The same as I can't tell you the amount of dominant men I meet who turn out to either be switches or to be subs. And they manipulate the situation, not all the time. Please don't hear that. Remember one of my golden rules, it's never all the time. We have to be really careful about that. We have to make sure that we don't end up manipulating somebody. And again, we'll come back to that one later about toxicity. Domina, me, it's hard to explain. Debs explains it super cleanly in 2 sentences. Sorry. I like that though. Thanks for the compliment. It's sweet. And Sweet Cherry, Sweet, do you mean that to be a direct message to me? Or did you mean it generally? Because it came up as a direct message. So I'm going to read it because I'm assuming already because I know you well. Is the sub taking the lead or are they being allowed to? And that's another thing, isn't it? When we're testing and we're pushing, I used to test way too much in relationships. Push, because I want the person to push back to know that I'm safe. I don't do that. That's a really toxic behavior. What I've learned to do is to say, I need to feel safe. Please, can I have this? It's completely different. And it's really different. And you've got to watch that in a sub-dom relationship, top-bottom relationship as well. It makes a difference. It might be as well that the top hasn't got a lot of experience, doesn't know, or has less experience than you. And we've really got to be careful. It might actually be that we want the submissive to top from the bottom, to teach the dominant, especially in a new relationship, teach me how to be with you. Yeah, okay, that might work. There's also a real danger to that one. If you do that too much, the danger is that actually that's what you're used to, and you don't take what the dominant wants. The dominant doesn't do what they want to do. So it makes a difference. Cinders and Nemoria, thank you very much. Very kind of both of you. So that's one all about consent. If you haven't read it already, fuck me, you're not a fan. Go away. So makes a difference too. Right. So if somebody is just starting out, that makes a difference. Please, I said that makes a difference so many times tonight. I don't know why. Before anyone offers to come down my throat to make it better, no thanks. Right, so if somebody is just starting out or doing something, just be careful, because if they push too much or you push too much the other way, it might mean that your relationship balance is ruined. I wouldn't want someone to learn through me too much. I don't want to be a teacher. That puts me in charge as far as I'm concerned. I'm a fan, but no, I've not read it. Kitty! You can tell I'm annoyed because you add an extra syllable at the end of a name. Have you noticed that when people are annoyed? They just go Kitty, or they go Kitty! So no, I'm not annoyed. I don't care. It's fine. In the nicest of ways. Still, Linny says, see, I can't be with someone that's less experienced than me unless they are very competent. If I have to explain things too much, I get out of the submissive headspace, which is what I was just saying. So true. And it's near impossible for me to switch back. Yes. So if it ruins a moment, you've got to be very careful about it. That's why if you are with somebody who's maybe less experienced or inexperienced, have loads more conversations, practice, do stuff in different ways. That'll make a difference too. It might just be, as I said earlier, that submissive isn't really a submissive at all. It might be that they're pushing to be a switch. It might be that they're pushing just to get really hurt. I remember kidnapping a woman once many years ago with an ex-partner, and I've spoken about her before. She's the one that broke a bed trying to kill me because I slapped her around the face, and her partner hadn't said, oh, when I phoned him, he said, oh shit, yeah, sorry, slapping's a hard limit. Oh God. Okay. And she was about 6'2" an Amazonian. I really thought I was going to die. But the point when we were in that situation, my partner got so bored of hitting her. She just kept pushing for more and more and more and more because she could take more and more and more. Complete and utter masochist. And you've got to make it work for everyone, haven't you? So she was just pushing and pushing and pushing. And he was like, I just feel like I'm a functional thing here. And we'll come into that when it comes to fantasy as well. It doesn't work. And again, if you are both switches, agree the principle. You are either going for a slow burn twist. You are either going for an absolutely defined role as to who's in charge at any one time, or you're going for a fight system where it flips really quickly, which are all the things that we've spoken about tonight. So you've got that slow burn, you've got that agreement of who's top and who's bottom at different times, depending on people's mood, will do. And you then got that extra weight goes, no, I want to fight you for it every time, and we'll see who wins. Of course, what I am going to say as well, which I think is really fucking important about this sort of stuff, is if your submissive has trust issues and or is a fawner and or has had trauma and or actually is using BDSM as a way of sorting their head out, that is incredibly dangerous, and they may be topping from the bottom to try and retain and regain control, either of you or their lives or their trust or anything else as well. And that means they will disobey, disregard, disrespect. And that isn't healthy for either of you. Again, that creates a toxicity in the relationship. Do you remember quite a few weeks ago, some of you, somebody came in who was quite, let me just check the pages. No, I'm kidding. I think they left, right? So I don't think they came back. But they sort of said to me at the time, are you telling me I can't fucking play until I sort my head out? And I went, yeah, I am. Hello, Mr. P. Welcome. Don't worry about being late. And he went, how fucking dare you tell me that I can't play if I haven't got my head sorted, even if I'm violent with my partner? Yeah, I am absolutely saying that. Of course, that's what I'm saying. What else do you expect me to say? But that's the problem here. So if you have a bottom who has trust issues and a top, but we're just talking about switching from the bottom, like that whole thing, we're talking about that topping from the bottom, switching, Jesus. Oh my God, cute doggy. Who's got a dog? Or are you talking about mine behind me?
Yeah, Goose, probably.
Goose! Goose is eating the floor at the moment.
Hello, Goosey.
She just
Goosey.
She's really obedient for 12 weeks old. Did you see that? She came like that. I'm no top, am I? Jesus Christ, I'm no power over that dog at all. But she's too cute. You don't care. You let her get away with murder. And again, that's something else as well, isn't it? If you feel really privileged to have that particular bottom or whatever, oh, yes. She's sitting. She's so cute. If you don't like dogs, tough shit. So if you if you're so, oh, I'm so lucky to be with this person, you've got to watch that as well. As a top, it is your job to hold the top position, to do those things, to have a conversation if you need to do those things. It is normal to be hesitant, to worry. It's normal, especially up front in a relationship. However, that up front can really ruin a relationship if you don't do those things, which is why you need conversations every single fucking time. You know what a safe word is, know what the boundaries are, know what the hard limits are, know what the soft limits are. Don't go all in. You're still sitting. Don't go all in to try and go, right, I'm going to break every fucking boundary you've ever had. I'll show you who's boss. I'm sorry. I've met too many people like that. It just doesn't work. Cinder says, I've ruled out a person lately because he likes to be dominant, but he has such anger issues. He told me that he's refused to go into therapy, which is fine as long as he's not near me to play. He shouldn't be fucking near anyone. Cute dog.
No one going to take you seriously now. No one is going to take you seriously. Hello, Goosey.
Oh, look, says he. No one's going to take you seriously. Hello, Goosey. This is Goose. Hi, Goose. Right, fuck off, Goose. Right, so, and you've got to watch that sort of stuff. Like, you've got to be really careful. If I remember, I really had an argument. Jerry might remember this, actually. Laura and a few other people might if they were there at the time. This very, very tall, submissive male and a very short, dominant female woman. I'm going to go with that. Blankly, oh God. It's true. I do share the same. Shaggy. That's what it is. That's how it's going to go. And I'm going for the cut all the way through. I'm growing my hair. Goose is going to have Fleecy hair, but I've got fleecy hair too. Oh God, they say dogs look like their owners and vice versa, don't they? Jesus. Okay, so it's this person came in and she basically said, I beat my submissive out of anger because it helps me all the time and I do all these things, whatever. And in the workshop, I turned around and I said, no, that's not okay. And it's interesting because I think if you've agreed that, it might be okay in some respects, but it doesn't work for me. Not matching colours. I'm not going white, but I might dye the dog peach. You never know. Why not? I don't see it's cruelty. Do you? It's not bleach. It's fine. I'll dye my dog's peach. I'm not, by the way. Jesus, before anyone phones the RSPCA or anyone else, I'm not going to do that. I dyed mine pink. Jeez. Yeah. Right, so topping from the bottom, honestly, it's never going to be a good thing. I know you might disagree with me. Negotiating from the bottom might be, having conversations about what you want, but none of those are actually topping from the bottom. When the whole point is you are in a DS power dynamic type relationship, aren't you? That's the point. So if you don't respect the person or trust the person, why the fuck are you in that dynamic? Domino Ivory says, oyster. So Blake, was that Jesus? Died, yeah, actually dyed my dog pink. That would be terrible, wouldn't it? Domino says, I never cause pain when I'm angry, not even for punishments. It just doesn't feel right. What if I lose control and hit harder than I meant to? Just seems unwise. I would agree with you. We don't think straight when we're angry, for sure. It definitely blinds us. And, you know, our prefrontal cortex, we start to shut down in a very similar way that we shut down when we're very anxious, when we're very angry. Blind rage, it's why it's called blind rage. You know, so much of our brain shuts down when we're angry, so don't do it. Poppy just wrote to me and said, I was listening and I missed Goose. I'll show you Goose again in a minute when you tell me you're back.
Has Poppy not met Goose?
No, not yet. I've only had her for 2 weeks. She lives in Manchester, doesn't she? Bitch, should have moved years ago. The problem with negotiating from the bottom is the top needs to be willing to too. And I would agree with that. This is why this is an agreement. You need to come together as two human beings, egalitarian, equal, yes, with respect for each other, and have a conversation. That's what it means. That if we don't do that, then we're never going to be okay. You need to be able to have conversations, not just give demands, not take demands, not to do those things. It didn't used to be like that. Jesus, 20 years ago on the scene, that's not the way it was. It is now. I don't think that's a bad thing. I think that's a better thing. I think it's really good for us to do. And I think we have to be careful about that. If you always negotiate and say, well, what's in it for me if I get one of those? You know, I want that. You've just got to say, no, I want some of that as well. That really matters to me. Please, can we incorporate that? And if so, how can we? And if not, why not? Have a conversation. Again, that's what matters. But if you're forever saying, well, I'll let you do that if you let me have 3 orgasms. Sorry, who's in charge? Why are you in this? If you want kinky play, meet a kinky facilitator. That's completely different to a power dynamic or a power exchange. Have that, fantastic, great. Both agree on the same thing. Makes such a difference. But make sure you negotiate what it is you actually want. Also, this is going to be an unpopular one. You know me, I like the unpopular ones. If you have something like CNC, or you don't feel like sex, but your dominant does, guess what? The answer is still yes, regardless of your gender. Again, if you give good reason or anything else as well, that's fine. But if you're in a DS relationship, welcome to DS. Welcome to power exchange. It's different. If you are in a kinky, playful, play relationship and you say, no, I'm really not up for that tonight, it's completely different. If you're in a full-blown power exchange, completely different. Again, no is not an option. Safe wording is a very serious message to give to your partner in anyone that you're working with. It's not necessarily a good thing. Please be careful about doing it, and only bloody call your safe words when you really mean them. You know, I think it's also okay. A lot of people can say, Amber, oh, I'm not feeling okay or whatever. How on earth is that a popular one? Does a reality check? I don't know. Because we're talking about rape. We're talking about CNC. And people see rape and CNC as the same thing, or they see sexual assault as CNC. And a lot of people do. However, welcome to BDSM. That's what it's about. If you want to give your power away. And there's some people say, no, but it's all agreed up front. You know, you also hear those people say, oh, if they told you to jump off a pier, would you? Well, I tell you what, they're not going to tell me to jump off a pier. That's the difference. Yeah, but how do you know? because I've done the work up front with this person. And they might test me, they might make me walk to the edge of the pier. I completely trust they're not going to make me jump off. I jump off in and have to get my own tea. Exactly. See, Dominic Ivory's got it all right. Oh, Jesus, I might have to jump in after you or be responsible. I'm not doing that. Nemoria from Debs is writing, hard limit for me, too aware of the damage it can cause, negotiating shenanigans. Thank you very much. You're so good. You're so kind. Thank you. Sweet Cherry, if you told me to do that, I'd take the door. Thank you. Bye. Yeah, but, you know, and again, pushing sometimes. See how far we can push this person. Just poke enough times. If you're not getting poked back and it's not what you want, then think about it. Ask for it in a different way. It makes a real difference. So topping the bottom isn't very good. It isn't. So I think we've gone through quite a few reasons as to why, reasons why it isn't very good. And I think you can't copy the links from the chat. Can you not? That's strange. I wonder why not. Can you not copy and paste them? Don't know. Okay, so there is a difference between bratting. Bratting is really, really, really popular at the moment. Lots of people are brats. That's great. That's lovely. And that is different. I agree with you too, Jerry. You can negotiate CNC as well. Look, we've always got, I'm really sorry, dominant person. At the end of the day, if we really say no, our biggest no is we fucking walk away. And that's always a distinct possibility, isn't it? But so can you as a top. And I think what we don't talk about enough is how often submissives manipulate tops as well. Like that is abusive too. And that's not spoken about enough. We talk a lot about the dominant who's abusive and whatever. There are plenty of people who are very abusive from the bottom up. And that's not healthy either. If your needs aren't getting met, speak up both ways. Do it respectfully, do it kindly. We might act out. We might say, I really need to be hurt. I really fucking need this. But actually, sometimes, save chat, is that me? Have I done something there? I'll come back to it later and see if I can save the chat at the end. Sorry. Right, so topping from the bottom, I feel like we've done quite a lot of that. So somebody just wrote to me, I was once told, and you can leave, don't need to stay, and got really angry response when I said it was always a given. Yeah, that is a truth, isn't it? We do hold that power. I've written before that submissives do hold the ultimate power, really, in many respects, but saying it doesn't help. It doesn't, you know, it doesn't make a difference, does it? Everyone's got the power to leave. You need consent all the way through. Oh, look, we're getting really technical here. Look at that. People are being really technical. I love this group chat. Look, someone's going to sort out your problem probably in 2 seconds. Right. So that brings
I'm jealous because it isn't you.
What have I done to you recently? Well, be nice to me.
I'm in a drop, Debs. My house sale has fallen through.
Oh, no.
Yeah. So.
No, Jerry, that's awful.
Tell you later.
I'm so sorry. Right. Don't top from the bottom in my workshop. Fuck off. No, I'm really sorry to hear that. That's really shitty. I'll write to you later. That's awful. I'm so sorry. Right. So Kitty says, we do not have the ultimate power. We have to wait and merely be in service to events instead of obtain personal real-time experience. Yep, that happens too. Lola's saying that sucks, Jerry. Oh, people are hugging you. People are being really nice. If you highlight the message, it allows you to copy it. I'm on a Mac. All right. I'll post the link as a comment to Debs' announcement message later. Thank you. Nemoria does that a lot. So part of the problem with all of this is if we're coming to this is the fantasy versus reality. See what I did there? A little bit of a segue. Are you impressed? Be impressed. Right. On to the next subject. We fantasize about these things. We think we want these things, and maybe we do, and maybe that's lovely. But when it comes to reality, it's not quite what we thought it was going to be. It's not quite what I signed up for. What do you mean I've got to clean the fucking loo with a toothbrush? I thought we were just going to have great sex games. Maybe not. If you want to be kinky, yes. If you want to do power exchange, maybe not. By the way, to anybody, I'm never cleaning. I don't even do my own fucking cleaning. Why would I do that? So you have to negotiate these things. You have to find out what they are. So I wanted to talk a little bit, first of all, about fantasy as in generalized fantasy versus reality. We all live in fantasy, even if you are a meditator who says, I meditate, that's not true, I'm really in touch with myself. Often when we meditate out of reality. We do not stay in the here and now. We meditate, we feel the warm beach, we're thinking about the sound of the sea on the sand, or we're thinking about the warmth of the sun, and all those meditations that take us somewhere else might be a reality, but it's an alternative reality to one that we're in. That's very different to mindfulness, where we're walking around or being really in touch with what happens. So we tend to get fantasy quite interestingly mixed up. It becomes a love-hate. Fantasy is awful, we need reality. Well, fuck me, sometimes we need to wake up and smell the coffee as well. It's awful, isn't it? So fantasy can be deliberate, it can be unintentional, it can be a lot of things. Oh my God, you all love fantasy. If you've been to see a film, or you've been to Disney World, or you've done something with your kids, if you told your kids that, how old are you all? Father Christmas isn't real. Okay, sorry for any littles I've just destroyed, and I probably killed a couple of fairies. Sorry. Oh God. even a dominant. Look, dominant ivory just went. The tooth fairy is real, but you need to ask for 50 quid. At my age, that's starting to happen. Poor Cuthbert. Cuthbert, I'm so sorry if I ruined your teddy bear. I really like that, Emily. Emily is, shh, Cuthbert, don't listen. So these things aren't real. But we engage in that fantasy, don't we? Because it's magic, because it's lovely, because it's what we do. Why don't we? There's something really magical about that. I had a client earlier on today. Don't believe that nasty lady. She knows nothing. She's so nasty. So I was talking to a client today, and her dad is a very strict Jehovah's Witness, and she has a 3-year-old. And they started to talk about Father Christmas today. And the grandfather said, oh, we need to have a word about that. And she looked at him and said, if you do, I'll fucking kill you. You know, like she does, she wants her child to believe in Father Christmas, and that's absolutely okay. But we all do that. However, the point I was making about things like guided meditation might be, just imagine you are by a stream. The stream is making a beautiful noise. Listen to the babbling brook as you sit and relax. Well, you're sitting in your bed that isn't particularly comfortable because you can't afford nice pillows or whatever. It's still all about that shit, isn't it? And that's what we've got to be careful of. So we are often told to engage in fantasy. When we are goal planning, we're fantasizing. Yet we teach people to do SMART goals and to do all that goal planning all the time. What do you want in 5 years? What's your 5-year plan? Where do you want to get? Well, unless you know it's going to happen, it's still a fucking fantasy. That's great. That's not a bad thing. However, if you're spending 300 quid on the lottery every week, maybe not a good idea, because there are pros and cons. Fantasy affects reality. The fantasy we have about a human being, or about going to university, or about owning a puppy, there's a fantasy attached to that, and that's to do with your hopes and expectations. And you've got to be really careful in the BDSM world when you start to have those hope and expectations of another human being without them consenting to that. In a way, university is going to change my life. Maybe not in the way you think. You may be caught something, Jesus Christ, you might regret a few things, awful things will happen, you might fail, you might succeed, I don't know. But we often believe that if we change something, it's going to change our lives, and that isn't true either. So the fantasies we have do determine the fork we take often in the road that we're going to take. I think what we've got to be careful of in BDSM as well is when your fantasy of a human being is too expectational and they don't live up to it. It's based on porn, it's based on ideals, it's based on the fantasy in your head that you haven't shared. And then people become the hanger by which you hang your fetish and or your desires and your hopes and aspirations, as in a BDSM relationship. So you've got to be really, really careful of that. We've got to test whether that works for us. We've got to evaluate consistently and make sure that it's okay. If you think, oh gosh, I've mentioned it before, like meeting a few men who say, satin does it for me, please wear a satin blouse to our first date or whatever. Well, do you want to meet me, or do you want to meet me in satin? Or is it anything to do with me, or is it the satin that you want? Which one is it? And then we've got to be careful about that. Jesus, I think I said to you about 6 or 7 months ago, there was a guy who said to me, oh, you know, we were getting on well, it seemed to be okay, not brilliantly, but it was all right, it was going quite well, lots of conversations. And I said, well, what are your rules? And he says, well, you have to sleep in, I don't know if you remember this, you have to sleep in tights or stockings, preferably with suspenders, every single night. Do you remember I said that? It was quite a while ago. And, and I said, no. Really uncomfortable. I don't want athlete's foot on a regular basis. And a baby doll, that was it. Lola, fuck me, go woman. What a memory. I don't want to be that uncomfortable in bed. Thank you very much, with all that shit on and whatever. And he went, oh, that's non-negotiable. No, non-negotiable should be that I'm some kind of child molester or a dog killer or something. Hello, thrush as well. Yes, Helen, exactly that. That much nylon up around your crotch every day isn't always a good thing, trust me. But that's the point, isn't it? It's not fucking real to do that. That's a fantasy, and we've got to be so careful about that. And we often put people into that. Look, is it great to have the odd fantasy and fulfill it? Yes, it's great. But we've got to be really careful how we idealize. And if we idealize in relationships, it's really, really dangerous. Look, you get lots of biochemical responses and reactions when you fall in love with someone. It's a beautiful feeling. There is so much happening, but it feels fantastic. And we get all these ideas. You get to know your partner, you get to, or partners, this isn't just about monogamy, you get to know people, you get into a more honest phase of a relationship at that stage. And that's when all this shit really starts to show its head, rear its head. That's when you've got to get on. That's when you've got to talk. That's when you've got to set up all the best communication that you can possibly do. If you are already linking to attachment later, if you are already in a place where you say, I'm not okay. So this is where transaction analysis comes in for me, the Okay Corral. So the Okay Corral is something that Eric Byrne turned around and said, I'm sure someone's looking it up already, but really, basically, the way it works is that he talks about people being okay, good enough. I'm okay, you're okay is the best meeting we want to have between two people. I'm okay, you're not okay. Is that good? You might like that in a dominant relationship, but that also means you could be with somebody who has an antisocial personality disorder, thinks they're better than anyone else, not so great. It could be that I'm not okay, you're okay. Well, then we're talking about different mental health issues, aren't we? We're talking about low self-esteem, we're talking about fear of abandonment, we're talking about attachment patterns and issues which create toxic relationships. Or of course, we can even go with I'm not okay and you're not okay, which is even worse because nobody's ever okay then. So you've got to be very careful about how you idealize and what you do. And please be careful because no one is fucking perfect. I really understand if I say pedestal, you're all going to go to a kinky club. No, I want you to come back. I want you to talk about a pedestal that you put someone on, a plinth, right? You put someone on a pedestal. If you put someone on a pedestal, there's only one way off it, and it's down. The person can't stay on their pedestal. If you're both on pedestals, you're both going to come off them. That's shit in a long-term relationship. Your partner is flawed. Your partners are flawed. You are flawed. Welcome to reality. One of my psychology professors once said, we're born flawed diamonds. We have brilliance and shine and beauty. And yet there are flaws. But because we don't like those flaws and we want to fit in with the world, lots and lots of shit happens to us, and lots and lots and lots of shit, and lots and lots and lots of shit. And it covers the brilliance of the diamond because all you can see is shit. And then because we want to sparkle and shine like a diamond, we cover it. We cover it with nail polish and glitter or paint or whatever it is that we want to cover it with. As one of my professors once said to me, the more glitter, the damage. And I was like, fuck, I really like glitter. It's everywhere. But, you know, hey, what we really need to learn to do is not put all the bling on. We need to cut through the shit and get back to the flawed perspective, which still has brilliance. It's really important. My partners are flawed, just me that is perfect. How are your women doing and when are they leaving? I'm kidding. Oh God, I really wouldn't want that. No, I get that. And I get that that's a joke. And we've got to be really careful about that because we are fallible. You are not superior to everybody else. It makes a difference. Because if you idealize someone, they also suffer too. I'm sending them to your house. I've got space, they can come. Oh, yeah, see, look, Master Jim, sir, I adore you. See, you're loved and loved and loved. So nice that people get to know each other here. How? Your unrealistic expectations on another human puts a pressure on them that isn't fair. They can't keep doing it. They will fear the consequences of failing and coming off the pedestal, which means the relationship's going to be damaged in some way, shape, or form. When you meet someone and you say, oh my God, you're everything I've ever wanted, you need to get to know them. Because they're not, because they will have flaws in some way, shape, or form. You need to empower yourself. They need to empower themselves, need to step off the pedestal and make sure that when we look at this sort of thing, that we're not just having someone as a hanger to put our fetish on. We've got to be careful. Fantasies are things that we dream about, daydream about, think about. We might watch porn when it comes to our sort of stuff. We might watch other people do stuff at clubs in different ways. And they're really normal to have. Any form of fantasy is utterly normal for us to have. And yes, I really do mean some of those extreme sexual ones. I do mean the sexual extreme ones. I do mean the ones about animals. I do mean the ones about children. I do mean those extreme fantasies that other people go, oh my God, you need to be locked up. Lots of people have extreme fantasies. It doesn't make them a bad person. They're never going to act them out. They represent something often. They represent the destruction of innocence. They represent excessive use or force. We have to look at the interpretation, the reasons, and try and have some understanding about what that's about. And I can tell you now, as a therapist, I've met a lot of vanilla people who won't necessarily know I'm the kink shrink, although I think most people do, who will have extreme fantasies and think that they're really damaged. And extreme fantasies can be a massive symptom of things like obsessive compulsive disorder, where you can't stop those sorts of fantasies. You think there's something really wrong with you. Actually, you've just got one particular version of OCD. So people have fantasies. It's good. Fantasies serve a purpose for us. They can be fun, they can be distracting, they can be disassociating us from our life, which might be too extreme. They can be really great. They can help foster creativity. They can help motivate us. They do wonderful things for us as human beings, and it's great. However, if you want to turn those fantasies in reality, you need to bring them back down into reality. You can fantasize about having a threesome. It can be one of the worst experiences you've ever had, potentially. I remember once being with a partner. He was a lot younger than I was. Let's not talk about that. And there was my best friend and her husband to be in our hot tub my hot tub in this particular house. And the person I was with had always wanted, so he knew that the three of us played together. He knew that lots of things had happened, and she was getting married in the grounds of this house in a couple of months. So we're all together. And I said to him, hey, do you want to join us? Do you want to? And he's like, oh my God, yeah, I've always wanted to do this. I'm not kidding, and I've told this story quite a long time ago. There's three of us in the hot tub, kind of kissing, touching, and doing bits and pieces, and he's sitting on the outside. And I said, do you want to join us? He went, yeah, I just need to go and get a cigarette. He was gone in an hour. An hour. He went up the road to see his friend to get a cigarette because he couldn't handle it. All his fantasies were coming into fruition at once. And I was like, man, that was a really long cigarette. And actually, in the end, he did do all of those things. But sometimes it takes people time. Don't judge them on that. When our fantasy is presented to us, often we can run. It's quite a natural response. It's okay. We didn't put that out to waste. We were all right. Consent was involved with everybody. That's okay. And it's okay that he panicked, because he did. And that's okay. And some fantasies need to be unspoken. Cosmic and I have done quite a few times. That extreme forbidden fantasy workshop where we really talk about these things, where we talk about, family, incest, everything, really, really strong things. Sounds very similar to most of us going out to our first ever lunch. What, the extreme fantasy or running away?
The fantasy of I'm going to meet these people and it's going to be real and wow, and then shit, I'm there and I can't go in.
Yeah, and all these people are going to be my friends. And everyone's going to understand me. It's all going to be really good. Oh my God, I'm so excited. And actually, you might have a disagreement. And actually, what you find is quite boring because they're talking about the price of milk. Because that's the reality, isn't it? That's what we do at a munch. We just talk shit. We talk about normal stuff. Shit. No, not scat. We did that a couple of weeks ago. That was last time. So we just, it's quite normal. People daydream. Daydreaming is really normal. People who daydream quite a lot are actually, in theory, more creative but more distractible than people who have fantasies as well. And there are different kinds of fantasies, and they're very normal, especially if they're sexual in their nature about what we want. And the reality is discussion of Marvel films. That's so true. Dominic says, imagine meeting Debs, Joey, or Master Jim in person. Dominic, come down to Lamb. Karis did, Nemoria did. And we all had lunch together, and it was fucking lovely, honestly.
Luke did. Luke's come in a few times.
Luke's been more than once. Please do. Just let me know when you're coming. I'll come in early. We'll sit and chat. And we had a really nice time, and we all met each other. Sweet Cherry's there. It's really lovely. Please do. Anyone, if you want to come over, come down to Lamb. Let me know you're coming. I will be so welcoming. with my mind, nothing else. No other bits are on offer, but you know what I mean. But we do fantasize about these things. We fantasize about that. Do you know what? And you might sit down with me and I'd be really fucking boring, be really horrible. Karis becomes one, you think, oh, she's not what I expected. Or, you know, Sweet Cherry might start mouthing off and you'll go, damn, she's a bit much.
Cherry mouthing off? No.
That's what I mean. That's the whole point. You're like, but we get involved. We have these fantasies about people. I'm not kidding. You have fantasies about me, without a doubt. I'm there December 2. Are you? Brilliant. That's great. Tits up. I need to visit Lamb, but still recovering financially from BBB. Yeah. Unpopular opinions, hard truths. Yeah, they are. Liverpool this Sunday with the scene counsellor. Yes. So if you want to go and see Poppy, Poppy does healthy mental practices, the same workshop that I do, and she's great. Go and see her. Honestly, it's really worth going. Yes, so everybody, no matter what country you're in, come to Lamb for December, and we'll just take over the place. Why not? Dragon meat for Simon, so having a weekend away and lunch with you. Are you? I didn't know that. That's nice. Thank you very much. So nice to be included in these things. Right, so it doesn't mean when you have a fantasy that you're definitely going to do it. You might just plan for it. Let's take scene counsellor there, for example, right? Simon's dragon meat falls apart. The kids can't be with who they're going to be with. Everything goes wrong. That's the reality of life, isn't it? Shit gets in the way. How we handle it is what matters, not that it changes. How we handle it is what matters. So it's okay. You know, you might get someone who's strictly monogamous, having fantasies about having sex with 33 people at the same time. But you might have people who are utterly straight, dreaming and fantasizing of having non-straight, however that appears, sex. It doesn't mean that these people are going to do these things, but we have to watch that as well. And the most common fantasies really vary for people. It depends. However, the most common fantasies are about BDSM, are about group sex, are about taboo, are about public, and are about all those things that we like. They're also ironically about romanticism, and I am an never-ending romantic. I am a demi-submissive. I need the connection. And the more I love someone, the more I submit, actually. How about fantasizing about someone beyond their hard limit? It's okay to fantasize, it's not okay to do. There's a distinct difference. You know, like, look, the worst fantasy I've ever heard, and I've shared this here before and I'll say it again. I was busy in bed with someone, we were having sex, and he started talking about murdering a toddler. Where'd you go with that? I mean, keep that one in your head. I don't need to know that shit. I mean, I was like, I'm in this person's house. We've spent all weekend together. It was going quite well until now. Now I need to go. Crazy. Maybe not to share. I know. Run, Forrest, run. I mean, I really had to go quite quickly after that. But yes, exactly. But we don't always know these things about someone up front, you know. We know them months later on. Now quite distracted, attempting to scrape my jaw off the floor. Is wanting a master of fantasy? I've just been asked. It has been 20 plus years. To this point, it seems unrealistic to happen. My first question is, I wonder why it's been 20 years. Is it a fantasy? I fantasize. Do you know what? People always say to me, Deb, what's your biggest fantasy? And they always expect me to say something sexual, different, crazy. And I'll tell you what my biggest fantasy is: a fucking good vanilla relationship. That's my biggest fantasy, because they're really rare. It's really rare to find someone that listens, that can communicate, that connects in such a way that's good. And maybe I'm too fussy, which I think is there as well. To the person that asked me that message, I'm curious as to why it is 20 years. Okay, they've just answered, because I don't know where to compromise. That is so important. You know, go and see someone, go and have a chat with someone. Like, I don't know if you can afford it or whatever, but a scene counsellor is taking clients. If you don't know where to compromise, it's something that you have to work on internally. And often that is a big reason why. It's the accountability of, where do I give in? What do I want here? And because we have this ideal, don't we? We have this Disney, okay, grins maybe, fairy tale ideal of what a master, a mistress, a parent, or whatever. Oh, change subject. Domina says, I was going to go in January, but if December's when all the cool kids are going, plots, please come. It'd be so lovely. Anyone else, just come along. We have such a good time together. We really do. So it's really important that we want something, that And some of those things matter. What is that something? Okay, that person's just written, somebody who has integrity and I can trust, who is not a poser. Integrity is something that needs defining. What do you both mean by it? How does that work? I can trust. I guess I'd ask, do you have trust issues? Is it hard for you to trust? How long does it take for trust to build up? And what does that mean as well? So I would really go and see someone, not a poser. Yeah, I think a lot of people in clubs are posers. However, I also know some really lovely people who do wear 23 tools on their belt when they're walking around a club, even if I do think you're wanker. They're still lovely people and I really love them. Because that's what people do, because actually it is easier to hook something off your belt than go into your bag. I get it as well. Trust is a really big one. I think trust takes an awful lot of time. Okay, that person's just written to me and says, my therapist does not understand my submissive side, so I have to hide so much. I'm going to say something really untherapeutic here, and I'm going to say, bring it up to your therapist. If your therapist then doesn't listen or judges you or says anything, change your therapist. Give them a tranche. Give them a chance. If that's not okay, change your therapist, because you need to be able to bring all of you to the table without, not judgment, because everybody judges, but without reprimand or without being told off or being made to feel little in that situation. So I think it's really important that you find someone who can do all that work for you and work in a different way. I think it's really important. Sweet Cherry says it's not the belt, it's how you use them. Don't we say the same about cocks? I mean, it's the same principle, isn't it? We probably say the same about cunts as well. That's when size really does matter. Hello. Hello. Long echo. Cocks are the how and the when. I agree. And it all matters, doesn't it? So we've got to be really careful. People don't always fantasize in normal ways. And what we've got to also be really careful about in fantasy when it comes to BDSM is that we get so normalized and we get so used to having certain fantasies that we need to up our fantasies each and every time to make them more and more and more. And that's when we've got to be really careful, because reality has to come in. If you want to have a look at anything about sexual research around fantasies, look at Justin Lee Miller, Lehmiller. I can't remember the name of his website, but he's got a book called Tell Me What You Want. He works on a lot of this stuff. Lots of common things are around threesomes and everything else as well. But Justin Lee Miller does a lot of this. So he's a sex researcher. It's what he does. I think he's on Facebook as well. I'm pretty sure he is. I was talking about him the other night, actually. So you can't make blanket statements about why somebody has a fantasy or what's happening. You know, it's a bit like a dream. Someone might say, oh, if you dream about losing your teeth, that means that's going to happen. If you dream about falling down the stairs, that means that's going to happen. And if you dream about having no clothes on, oh my God, you're worried about this. Well, how about I say to you, what do you think that dream means? How about we start there instead, rather than having a set ideal over what fantasies mean in any way, shape or form, because we're all fucking different. And I don't want to wear a satin blouse for somebody. I don't want to be someone's coat hanger. Tell Me What You Want. Oh, is that the book? Thank you. It's a great book if you want to have a read. It's all about the research. And our emotional needs, he talks about, manifest sometimes through our fantasy, and they can be romantic, passionate, aggressive, violent, and they can be all sorts of different things. However, don't look for the person that you want a relationship with or you want to play with to fix your needs. You need to fix your needs. They need to fix their needs and wants, and then you come together as two okay individuals with some shit going on, because that's what always happens. That's real life. I think one of the worst things, one of the greatest myths that we have in relationships is that if I get into a relationship with a good person, it'll fix me. Not their job. Your job is to fix you. My job is to fix me. And then that's how we come together. And that makes a difference. For example, I think he writes in the book, if you have a daydream, for example, about a threesome, it might not even mean that you want a threesome. It might mean you want more attention. It might mean that you want more ears around you, not for the things you're thinking of, but you might want different people talking to you, listening in a different way. And it might come out sexually because that's the way it does sometimes. It could be like, I mean, come on, how many people here are submissive, for example, or switch, right? It could be that actually you just want to lose control sometimes. You don't want to take the lead anymore. You're a powerful person in your life. I just want to switch off. And And actually, some of us will act that out. Some of us just want that as a fantasy because we just want to switch off. The same as somebody might feel like they don't have enough power in life. They want to step up and take and do something as well. It might just be about all the chemicals and different things as well. If you've got something really taboo, it might just mean you want to try things and see how things go. And the older we get, the more fantasies we have. I know people think that's the other way around, but it isn't. In his book, what he talks about is, bye SS, need to go, see you later. People who are in their 40s and 50s who have been in much longer term relationships are more likely to have stronger fantasies and more of them, more regularly, stronger and more of them regularly. And that's interesting, isn't it? So is that we get bored? What is that about? Well, I think people do get bored. We get into ruts, we get into systems. Jerry says, I was saying to someone at a munch last night, sometimes I think I'd like to be in prison, have no choice and be really told what to do. Do I really want that? Fuck no. Don't know, I really get that. You know, you can just let go sometimes and not have any fucking responsibility. It could be quite nice, but of course you don't really want that. That's the other thing about fantasy. We change the reality of the fantasy. That's actually, I didn't say that earlier and I really wanted to say that. So thank you. That stimulated me to say that. Thank you, Jerry. See, like you're my little stooge. Here's the fiver. Justin Lee Miller, Lehmiller, I think. Can't remember. It's something like that. Justin L. Lee Miller. Jesus, all right, Kitty, I'm really going for it there. Thank you very much. It's very sweet of you. I appreciate that. So we often, when we have a fantasy, let's say about being raped, in the fantasy of being raped, if we want to be slapped, we're slapped so beautifully, it makes this perfect little mark on our cheek. Or the penetration is in a certain way that you're okay. And whatever it is, the fantasy that we have, that ain't fucking reality, is it? You control your fantasy when you have it. And that's the problem you've really got. It doesn't do you any good. You have to look at that. Luke, cuckolding was a fantasy, but realized the reality for me was really upsetting, though also wasn't done in a consented way. Number one, the consent really matters. Number two, your fantasy will 9 out of 10 times not hit your reality. It won't. That's the truth about it. So you've got to be willing to say, I consent, to have all those conversations, and then say that didn't work for me because, but that, not blame the other person. It's not your fault. This went wrong. It needs a conversation. Lovely Pervert says, many years ago when I was far less kinky and seeing a woman who seemed totally vanilla, I gave her a Nancy Friday book and encouraged her to discuss her fantasies with me. She was very reluctant. When she finally did tell me one, it turned out to involve lesbianism, bestiality, and false homosexuality at a point of a gun. I told you, them vanillas. I think I did a reasonable job of not looking incredibly fucking surprised. What I learned from that is if you ask people to tell you these things in trust, you have to be really ready for what comes out of it. Absolutely. And that's the thing, isn't it? You know, that is the thing always. You ask for it, be careful. Hi, are you okay? Do you want the English? I'm fine. Or do you really want to listen to what the fuck is going on for that person? And it's the same in fantasy as well. Makes a real difference. Jerry says, the kidnapper is tall, handsome, knight in shining armor, not a syphilis-ridden hunchback dwarf. Don't say that, that's my type. Thank you. Lola says, even with things you think you know about yourself, it can be so different. The sex I fantasize about rarely feels as good in reality, but I just accept that it doesn't make me disappointed. I just witness my body not being capable of what I fantasize about, and it's okay. I think as well, we've got to be careful of, Lola, is if we go chasing all of our fantasies, they very rarely live up to our expectations. It's good to have some left. It's good to have some that you think about and do in a different way. It's really important. Also, if you feel quite anxious about sex, you are very likely to have submissive fantasies. If you're worried about whether you're good enough, if you're worried about what happens and how it's going to happen, you are much more likely to have more of a submissive nature, because then the person takes control. So it then ends up being their fault or their responsibility. Again, it's letting go of certain things in different ways. You've also got to be very careful, because the relationship between fantasy and reality is important. And it affects our reality, whether that's sexually, whether that's anything else as well. There's an interesting piece of research. I need to find it, sorry, because I do mention these things. If you have a relationship with somebody who, as a woman, who is pathologized as having an antisocial personality disorder. So if a woman has a relationship with, the gender isn't relevant actually, a person who scores high on pathologies of some form of antisocial personality disorder, which means they are very fanatical, fantastical in some way, shape, or form, she will be so fearful of being abandoned. Her attachment issues will all come up. We stay in pathological relationships often, these women do, some women do, because the fear of abandonment is so difficult, because the person who has the complex pathology will stop to reconnect. Love bombing, lots of people call it different things, but I'm not just talking about narcissism here. It makes a real difference. Abandonment is such a really early childhood feeling that we suffer from, and we've got to be very careful about that. And again, that ties us into our third one when we start talking about attachment as well. We, as an adult, let's absolutely be true, you are not technically capable of being abandoned. Work that one out for a second. Really listen to that statement. As an adult, you are not technically capable of being abandoned. Not in the childhood sense. You can earn your own money, you can sort your own life out, you can do many of those things. It is a childhood fear that the child will not be okay because you are independent. You might not feel it, I agree. So Lola says, because you're independent, you are capable. I think it's a really important thing to think about. Unless, of course, you are medically dependent on somebody else for different reasons. If you're financially dependent, again, you can earn your own money potentially. I'm not talking about medical psychological dependency, right? That's completely different. I'm talking about somebody who falls on the spectrum of okayness, whatever the fuck that means. Jerry, so Kitty says, sorry, let me go with this. Kitty says, but Luke and Jerry, is this not why we ache for a master dominant, not to be sedated in a cell, but to help take control? I think we've got to be really careful of that one, Kitty. If you want somebody to take control for you, that's when we start to look at dependency and toxicity. I need you to take control in order for me to be okay. So you organize my life because I feel like I can't. And that's when it's going to go wrong as well. That's when it isn't okay. Kitty, I feel the same way about death. I really don't want to die, but sometimes think that to lose all the responsibilities and troubles of life would be fabulous. We very rarely want to die, actually. Not always. Some people absolutely want to die. I have a few clients who absolutely want to die. I'll support them if that's what they want. However, what most people want is the way they feel to stop, the way their life is to stop, the way their things are for them to stop. And sometimes if we don't feel that we have a solution for that, the only solution we have is to die. That will help. That will make a difference. Kitty says, I understand this, but this is why having a strong community comes in. Yes, it makes a difference as well. So this abandonment, adults, you can't technically be abandoned as an adult if you have the physical and mental capacity of an adult, whatever that means. We are so scared of being abandoned as human beings that we rarely embrace what's about to happen because we might not feel secure in and of ourselves. If you feel like, you know, I think we can get carried away sometimes. You complete me. Actually, you are complete. It might be fucking lovely that the other person is with you. You have this shape, they have this shape. This makes a wonderful thing, but you are complete as this and you are complete as this. That's what we have to realize. And if you come together as two complete beings, oh my God, you're going to have a better time. I'm so losing my voice. You are going to have a better time. If you come together broken, it goes back to that picture I've got on my profile about the two people made up of endless puzzle pieces. And what you've got is one person with one puzzle piece missing, and this person on this side has most of their puzzle pieces missing, but they're still holding out another puzzle piece to the person. You have to be okay as yourself to come into something okay. You have to be. Are we? No, for a lot of us aren't. You know, that internal child, that young part of ourselves that really needs something, we just live in a fantasy land, don't we? Oh, you complete me. That's okay. I'm okay when I'm with you. I can't possibly survive without you. I know when I'm with someone, even when I really love someone, that if they left me, I might feel some devastation. I might be really sad. I might have some regrets, potentially. I might think, oh God, they're like, I fucked this up, or they did. This is awful. I don't want that. However, what I do know, which is the term of trust that I have, which is different for different people, is I trust that I will be okay, even when I go through all of that. And if I can trust myself to do that, that means I bring myself as a whole person to you. CWK. So what do you do if you are dependent on others because of medical reasons? I get that I'm not broken, but I do have realistic medical issues. It's not just a childhood fear. How do you achieve getting over the being abandoned? Sorry for weird in-depth question. It's not weird. And the more is put the picture up there, thank you. It's not weird. We have to work out how else can I facilitate this so I don't need that one person. I have plenty of clients who are medically and physically in need of other people at different times. Tomorrow, I live alone. Part of going to the hospital yesterday to get myself checked out was a responsibility to myself and to my family, because if I were to wake up and I did have a lung clot and I couldn't get to my phone or something happened, just to get checked out shows a medical responsibility for myself in a way. And it's not a weird question, but we have to work out what can I use, what is around me, what does work, how do I facilitate things? When I was going through that stuff that nearly kills you inside, because I can't say chemo in here because someone goes fucking bingo. Look at Sweet Cherry, she's already bloody laughing, so is Jerry. Twats, right? So I had to make sure, because I lived alone, that I had all the right medication at the bottom on my bedside table. I had to make sure that I had a drink. It's still a habit. I take a drink to bed every single night because I might need to take a tablet. It's still a habit that I still have. I'll take twat as a compliment. I was going to say something really sexual and weird then, but I won't, because it's not right. But it's really important that we work out the best way. How can I do this to look after myself? Because actually people with major disabilities still manage to do so incredibly, and do live alone and do manage. How do they? What is it about them? What have they done? What can they do? What can we learn from them? And what does it mean? And I think it's really important that we work out, how do I live alone? What can I do? And how I ask for help, and how I play the game. How I play the game to get the right benefits if you need them, to get the right care, to get the right help. However, do I think help is great? No. I have clients with extreme needs who get half an hour's help every day. They're lucky if they're taken to the loo, so they, pee on a pad or whatever. How do we make the best of it? What does it mean? So we have to be careful about that balance. A piece of research shows that there are 3 different types of mindsets that allow more toxic relationships, right? One of them, which I talk about investment bias, but other people also mention the sunk cost fallacy. So there are 2 different aspects to that. But I've already put too much in here. I've invested so much into this relationship. I'm not going to go. It's too much. It doesn't matter what your investment is. Sometimes you need to go. We also suffer from intermittent reinforcement. And by that, I mean, we say to somebody, hey, I'm not okay. This relationship really isn't working for me. These things are all happening. I really want to stay. These are the changes. What can I do? What can you do? How do we facilitate this? Yes, babe. And they do it all for a month. And then it goes off again. But that intermittent reinforcement makes us think, I'll stay because it's all so lovely. Oh, this is good. I'll stay. It'll be all right. And that can be really dangerous. And then gaslighting comes into it. When we start to second guess ourselves, I'm not talking about being actively gaslit by somebody as an intention. Everybody gaslights, right? I don't care how much you love someone, you gaslight them every so often. If you turn and say, no, you didn't say that, you can be accused of gaslighting, but you just remembered it differently. It's different. So gaslighting is a systemic approach to try and make the other person feel absolutely insane. It comes from a play, originally, Fanny by Gaslight, whereby the man is trying to make his wife feel like she's so mad because he wants to get her inheritance. And if he has her committed, he can have the inheritance. When we gaslight somebody, it can be over, when it comes to it can be all about, it could be over nothing. No, that's not true. You didn't do that. You said this. I did this. How can you do that? And we gaslight naturally when we remember things in a certain way. To really be conscious, to consciously gaslight somebody is, that's not what happened. Poppy, have a lovely time. I'll see you later. Have to go and attend a thing. And I've really missed Thursday evenings. It's not the same watching on catch up. I'm very honoured that you watch on catch up. I will speak to you later. So we have to be really careful. Like, you're fucking mental. You keep saying things like that. No, I'm not. Am I? Am I mad? I was once, it's not the first time actually, I've been really badly stalked by somebody who met me on FetLife. And when I say badly, I mean serious police involvement. And this person turned around and said that he had videos of me with children and with dogs. That's what he said. So I said to the police, get them. This is my email, look through all of my email. These are all my emails. Please look through everything and try and find that out. Is it just gaslight? Oh, it might be, sorry. But honestly, there was a point where I started to think, have I made one of those films? I absolutely doubted myself because he was so adamant with the police. I mean, this guy was completely mad and everything else as well. And you've really got to be careful, because when somebody tells you something enough, you really start to believe that you're not okay. You really start to believe that what they're saying is that you're mad in some way, and you second guess yourself all the time. Gaslighting isn't used in the right way at all. I agree with you, lovely pervert. The expression is now being used so liberally for so many things. I feel I'm being gaslit about its meaning. I'd agree with you. We are not using it in the way it's intended. It has to be for an intent to make someone feel insane. You're gaslighting me. No, I'm disagreeing. I'm holding my fucking point. That's not my experience. That's okay. That's an argument. That's a disagreement. That isn't gaslighting. But they're the three most toxic things that people tend to do to stay in a toxic relationship. However, what we're talking about here, and I've written about this, and if Namori is listening, I'm sure he's looking for it, I've written about attachment patterns in BDSM relationships before. So if you don't know about attachment theory, you're going to look up people like John Bowlby and Ainsworth. That's what Bowlby and Ainsworth are the people you're going to end up looking up in some way, shape, or form. What it basically says is how I attach to my parents or my main caretakers is an influence to my romantic pattern later in life. That's basically what attachment theory is about. Attachment theory was very, very popular quite a while ago. Everyone had an attachment disorder. It came up a lot. It's gone so much. I would say the disorder of the moment is actually probably spectrum or ADHD. Children, everyone, we go through phases in our life where everyone's being diagnosed with something. That's not to say those things aren't so. It's not to say that people haven't got them. It's to say that people are looking for them really actively. So Mary Ainsworth and John Bowlby were the two people that did it. So they were saying, okay, how does a child react and what do they do? It doesn't explain everything. It doesn't cover everything. It is one principle. Why do we have those sorts of patterns and relationships? And if you want to read about it, there's a writing there. Why is it my close relationships fail? Why do they succeed? And how do our attachment relationships come in that way? Now, I can't remember how many there are nowadays. Some people say there are 16, some people there say there are 20. Bowlby and Ainsworth came up with 4. That has been extended for years and years and years ever since. Skinner did attachment studies, didn't he? Afterwards, loads of people, you will find thousands of people who've done forms of attachment studies, but Bowlby and Ainsworth were the 2 people that started it and made a real difference. So you've either got a secure attachment style, which means you're comfortable in your own skin, you're comfortable showing affection, you're comfortable should somebody come and go, you're comfortable being alone a lot of the time. You've got a healthy level of self-confidence. If you have too much self-confidence, you probably don't have a secure attachment style. You can draw a boundary, you can stick to your boundaries, you can say how things are. Of course, if you want someone as a friend, preferably, and as a partner, you're looking for the most secure attachment style you can possibly get. However, you probably won't look for a secure attachment partner if you want to keep reiterating certain childhood patterns, because we subconsciously look for things that will confirm our beliefs about ourselves in some way, shape, or form. So somebody who is securely, and you can change your attachment pattern, by the way, let me make that 100% clear. You can absolutely change your attachment pattern, otherwise what the fuck is the point? Of course you can. And that's really important to remember as well. You can change your attachment pattern. So you can accept rejection, you can work with rejection, you can work with that fear. You don't have a fear of abandonment because you know that actually I'll be okay. So somebody just said privately, so the disassociation from my parents can be why I put such a distance with partners, both of them. Yes, it could be. We play out certain patterns depending on the sort of parenting that we got and the sort of responses we did as well. Skinner did operant conditioning and did look at attachment within that as well, because if our operant conditioning, depending on it, that could also depend on our attachment patterns. So they do tie in together sometimes. Sweet says, I question sometimes if we are biologically meant to be comfortable to stay alone. I am too comfortable being alone. Yeah, see that ties into what was said before as well. But all of these things are changeable if you want to change them. If not, own the fact that you're okay with it. That's the different thing as well. You can definitely change some of these things if you want to. Any books on different attachment patterns you just mentioned, please? Thousands. Like, read my, have I got any quotes in there? I don't know if I have. But if you want the basic books, you're talking about Bowlby and Ainsworth, basic attachment patterns. But you can get all of that for free on the internet. Just look up attachment patterns. Honestly, you'll find loads. There are really good ones around, so you'll really trust people. And they reckon that around 50% of the population have secure attachment patterns. Quite cute, quite cool. Anxious attachment patterns, very numb, very nervous, very stressed about relationships. We need constant reassurance. We need lots of affection. We need words telling us we're okay. We can't be alone. Are you going? Are you leaving me? Oh my God, are we going to argue? Does that mean we're done? And then that's very difficult as well. We have to watch that. And often somebody who has some form of anxious attachment style will go into an abusive relationship because, hey, at least they like me. And they will probably end up in some kind of unhealthy, if it is an abusive relationship in some way, shape or form. Okay, so somebody just said, now have become secure and someone I'm seeing as anxious attachment, like roles reverse. I now struggle to know how to deal with that. That's really hard. They need to get some help with that. If you can stay really constant and stay okay, the problem is you might not give them what they want as an anxious attachment pattern, because an anxious attachment pattern will want somebody to respond and over-respond to everything that they're going through and to facilitate the anxiety in a way. It's not codependency, but it is interesting how it plays out. And somebody else said, my attachment style has changed through heartbreak and being less emotionally available always a bad thing. I've been told I need therapy. If you want to be less emotionally available and you're happy being less emotionally available, carry on. Let people know, do what you want to do. You don't have to be pathologized by someone, but if you know you're not happy, then yeah, go for some therapy, get some help, do something, take a risk, find someone that will work for you as a therapist. Our attachment patterns, I would argue, don't change through heartbreak. They are confirmed by heartbreak. Slightly different. People might not like that one. Karis is nodding. She is a therapist. So, you know, she's like, yeah. So we've got to be careful about that as well. What people say. Quote from Debs. Is an incredible link around attachment and worth a read. Thank you. That was in my writing, wasn't it? And that's the writing as well. General intro to attachment styles, good old Wikipedia. Okay, so you want me to say that again. What I'm saying is, when the person said before, I don't want to say their name, my attachment style has changed through heartbreak. I'm saying, I don't think your attachment style has changed through heartbreak. I think the heartbreak confirmed your attachment style in the first place. So if we go in with an anxious or an insecure type of attachment, we will often end up heartbroken, which just proves that we were right in the first place. If we are a secure attachment person and pattern, no matter how much heartbreak we have, we'll say, okay, I'm all right, I can do this. No matter how much. That's quite hard to take, because it's quite hard to listen to. Cinder says, I agree. That is shown in dating TV shows when someone says, oh, but you see, no one ever loves me, everyone leaves me, and it becomes a self-fulfilling prophecy. Very true. So anxious attachment patterns will have trouble trusting people, have trouble connecting to people. However, they will 100% fucking rely on people to resolve their emotional problems and to have a connection with them emotionally. So now you're in this really strange situation. They won't let you in, they won't trust you, but you have to fix their issues, which I don't know where to go with that, push me, pull me. And that means that there's irrationality, and there's all sorts of things that go on. So we don't, you know, they're the ones complaining that their partners are completely and utter cunt, whereas actually they're trying to be very supportive. And that's why I was saying to that person as well, if you're with someone who has a very insecure attachment style, you either need to stay very solid and let them do all of this, or really get them to go somewhere, see someone. Domina has to go. I loved it all as always. Thank you very much. See you later. And maybe actually physically see you in December. That would be quite nice. Right, I'm trying to hurry up because in theory I've only got 5 minutes left, but you know me, I always go 5 minutes over. Sometimes what we seek is more confirmation of what we already know, believe, than a solution to a possible problem. Yes, but we are spouting forth that we need somebody who will do it. You know, you've got to be, so someone who's an anxious person will overcall you, will hassle you, will bother you. You'll see them as a psycho, and they're probably crying about a lot of things. They're more likely to be women than men, to be fair. I don't know why that is. That's hey, there's still plenty of men who are fucking insecure as well. It goes both ways. You also then have an avoidant attachment style. An avoidant attachment style is somebody who's utterly independent. I'm okay. I'm fine with intimacy. No, you're not. They're really uncomfortable with intimacy. You don't know about them. They're not there. They're not available. And they're like, no, I'm sorry. And they're always too busy. They're often successful. They're often very capable. They've got an exit strategy. They've got a savings bank account on the side with a separate passport, secret identity, James Bond. That's who they are. They're not. Clearly they're not. But that's, that's very much what they do. But they can't commit. They can't do things. Somebody said to me the other day, they gave me an example of somebody who was in a relationship of two people, and this person knows who they is because they're here, where one had clearly said to the other, I don't want children, I don't want to live with my partner, and all of those things as well. That's probably basically that person is some kind of avoidant. Whereas the other person they're with thought, oh no, I can change them even after all these years, and they will have children, they'll be okay eventually. No, you cannot change someone else, they can only change themselves. And then I've got another private message that says, I fell in love with someone I shouldn't have as they weren't emotionally available. I feel like I've peaked in terms of depth of love. Yeah, I get that. And I know who you are as well. It's very difficult, isn't it? Because what we've got to do is stop this shit before it happens, not after it's happened. But that's easy to say, isn't it? It's very hard to hold those boundaries sometimes and say how we want to be and what it means. So avoidant types are very self-confident, not very expressive, not particularly warm. I'm not saying they're cold, but they don't reveal all of themselves. They're not particularly giving in everything that they say or do. I wouldn't want to rely on someone who's avoidant. So like for bingo, me having cancer, an avoidant person probably would have said, fuck, I can't do this, I'm out, Deb. They'd have been gone. And that makes a difference as well. They don't care very much, really. That's the point here. But I get it. You also then have anxious avoidant. Another word for that is somebody who is fearful and or unorganized. That's the way it's put together. And that's the worst of both worlds. I don't want commitment. I don't want intimacy. I'm scared of all of that shit. But I distrust you. And if you're trying to get close to me, you can fuck off. And most of these people will end up absolutely alone or a very dysfunctional relationship. People will suppress and repress their own emotions. So you can understand why these sort of things really have toxic implications in relationships. And anxious avoidant are the most likely to stay in any form of toxic relationship because we're looking for confirmation that we're not okay. Because what we do, Einstein defined it, didn't he? Turned around and he said, definition of insanity, roughly, I've got this slightly wrong, is repeating the same thing again and again and expecting a different result. But that's what we do in relationships. We want someone else to heal us. We want someone else to sort it. And they can't. They won't. It won't happen. We really need, if we've got really bad attachment patterns, I met this man, I just felt really sad for this man. He had lots of psychotic episodes. He really wasn't well. He said his body transformed when he went into a psychotic episode. He was a very Catholic raised person. He had, I think it was something like 20-something caregivers in his first year of life. And for 1 or 2 months, his mum disappeared with him and nobody knew where he was. So he didn't have 20-odd caregivers in 12 months, he had 20-odd caregivers in 10. He ended up with a really complex family member who said to him, you won't remember this, but I beat the devil out of you when you were 2, because the devil is inside you. He was sexually assaulting kids from the age of 5 because actually nobody knew he'd been raped by the local priest from the age of 3 to 5. His attachment pattern was non-existent, absolutely non-existent. And he used to tell me that he would squish birds when he found them, little birds, because he had to squish them because he had to keep them safe. Because the only way to keep something safe and to make it okay was if you just kept squishing and squishing and squishing. Now I work with attachment patterns. I left this particular place that I was working in, and I asked him to come with me because the attachment was the most important thing we had to work on. And he was amazing to work with, and he couldn't live with himself because he also knew he was gay, but he can't be gay because he was raped by a man, and he also can't be gay because he would die and go to hell because he was completely Catholic. And you know, we worked together for years. And there's a really interesting, oh God, I can't remember the name of it. There's a really interesting YouTube video. It's a video about a very young girl who had a very serious attachment pattern, who tried to kill her brother all the time. They were adopted by very churchy people, and they found her trying to kill her brother in the basement, and he, bye for all, if you're going, you're very welcome. Thank you for saying I'm great. I appreciate that. But she would stand in their bedrooms with a knife saying, when you go to sleep, I'm going to kill you. She was about 6 or 7. Like, and in the end, they sent her to a specialist for attachment, and she really wasn't okay. And she ended up having to stay with these people who had to take away all her privileges and then slowly but surely give them back around freedom and everything else as well. She became a qualified nurse. I think it was in the 80s or 70s, whenever it was, that she got better. And she was great. Attachment patterns can be changed. Being able to set boundaries is really important. If you can't set boundaries because you're anxious or anxious avoidant, then you're going to be in a toxic relationship, because people can walk all over you. You go too much, people do two things. You can't just please everyone all the time. And of course, if you've had some kind of trauma, you are a fauna, different things happen, it's not healthy for you. You can't talk about your issues. You won't talk about your issues, or you talk about it with the wrong person. What you need to do is attach to your fucking self. That's what's needed in this moment. Attach to yourself, heal yourself, develop yourself. But it's